Welcome back, episode 55, Revisited, Viewer Request Month. You people suck, you people suck, you people suck.
Happy to be here.
No, speak for yourself.
They're not gonna get that out of me. Nope.
They're not gonna get that emotion.
Nope. Mm-mm.
Dude, you know what we got coming. You know you gonna feel that sooner or later.
Absolutely. But starting out, happy to be here.
Okay.
Happy to be here. You're not torturing me. I'm fine.
Okay.
No issues.
We'll see
we
how
were
long
gonna do this video anyway, you bums.
Let's see how long that lasts.
Y'all wasted a vote.
The biggest vote.
The biggest vote for some reason. We're gonna do this anyway. Happy to be here.
So we're talking about Cosmonauts videos, Sam Raimi Spider-Man Trilogy, Worse Than You Remember. It's funny he says that because I hope this is not like the Dressrosa thing. We both rewatched all three Spider-Mans in preparation for this so we could know everything. And dude, those first two movies are tremendous.
Legitimately. Especially the first movie, I'm like, wow, this is like the first 15, 20 minutes is so tight. Everything informs something. It's like there's no wasted time here. Harry and his dad in the car talking about him flunking out of all the Peter Mary Jane stuff. It's just like, this is
Peter's
so
like
tight.
uber awkwardness.
Yes. I'm watching this like, this is really good. Now you got the dated stuff, obviously.
Yeah, the effects and
you got the obvious thing of just like Tobey Maguire as a 26, 27-year-old, whatever.
There's middle 20s, late 20s, high school kids in the high school, understandable. And some of the weird transitions, and that's just.
Yeah, there was a part where he was right after Mary Jane hopped in the car and everything, and he's designing his suit and trying to figure out the in-car thing, and there's a certain shot of it's just his face, a car moving towards the screen as Mary Jane is just like 50% opacity on the car. I'm like, oh no, that's not.
Yeah, that was very like I just got a program to edit things. Let me throw everything on the screen. But there were a lot of shots in that long thing. Because that long thing, I think, is one of the overlays and all that stuff. I think that's one of the worst shots in the movie. But there were a lot of good moments within those shots. Like, tremendous stuff. And I was surprised by how much jump scares and horror there was.
I was thinking that too, because there was a certain time where Osborne was just sitting there and it was just like a big flash. I'm like,
it was right after he woke up from the first time he killed that dude. Mm-hmm. It was like last night, and it was like, and it,
because a whole lot of that.
Sam Raimi is a horror director, so you're gonna get a lot of that horror aesthetic, especially in the second movie with old girl scratching her nails, being dragged away by Doc Ock's tentacles. Dude, the first two movies are tremendous.
Ridiculous.
Now, we have given a lot of pushback on people saying the third Spider-Man movie is one of the worst superhero movies of all time. I still do not believe that, but in the context of the first two, it is a huge drop
off. Down. The biggest thing that I could say about it is it's just boring. It's just not very interesting. My interest was not there. I was watching the first two movies. Every now and again I'd look at my phone, whatever. Most of the time on the third one I was on my phone. Cause I'm like, you don't have a really good villain.
Yes.
Like Ock or Osborne.
And I feel like dude, without the Venom stuff, it would have fleshed out Harry more. We could have got more of his sadistic stuff, like torturing Peter.
More than one scene of the daughter.
Dude, it would have been the Venom stuff, or take out take out
one of them. Either one of them.
And play more
Venom or Goblin.
Or play more into Peter's psychosis because of the symbiote, because he just becomes kind of like quietly confident instead of like super aggressive. There's aggressive stuff when he's Spider-Man, and beyond that, it's just like,
I also like how it, the everybody memes on the whole dancing scene and everything, but I like how that is what Peter considers to be cool.
Yes.
Him just going, now dig on this and crap like that. Find me some shade. I'm like, this is is in 1940s. What are you talking about, Peter?
That's how they're showing how lame he is because this is cool Peter. So we have seen this video, but it's been years. I legit do not even remember anything he said in it.
Anything. And I was watching the first and second movie with like the criticism brain on, trying to figure out what I can find that will make up a 26-minute video. And there's things like the
effects are dated.
The effects are dated. When Green Goblin goes into Jonah's office and Peter saves him, and he's just hanging upside down with the sleep, and that's a very slow moving gas. Peter could have moved.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's hard to know the second it hits him if he's already feeling it, one. And two, if it's not presenting danger, I don't know if his spider sense would detect it.
But it's still him just holding up his wrist and going, sleep! Yeah, so, second movie, I was rewatching this train scene, just like, Peter should be knocking out Doc Ock.
Yeah.
He's a normal. He has normal human strength. He's human middle-aged durability.
The only thing I can think there is the tentacles are keeping him awake. Like they're controlling his pain and all that. That's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, yeah, because they both fall from the building onto the train, and it's just like, you not hurt?
Yeah, and Peter gets a couple good shots in, and I'm like, oh, you see the first punch didn't knock him out. You're Spider-Man. Go 2% more. That didn't knock him out because he get, stuff like that. There's a couple times where Ock wants to kill Peter, and he has his tentacles up against his face, and I'm like, he got it like a claw blade.
Yeah.
Crap like that. That's why I really want to see that. Southpaw made a pretty long, like hour-plus video about why the second Spider-Man movie isn't all that good. I really want to see that because I'm like, it's
we might
really
need to do
good
that someday.
It's really it's
also,
it's on the list.
Also, I did not remember how brutal these fights were. Peter was getting murdered, and it's so different from what you expect from a superhero movie today, of just like, even, not just Marvel, even DC stuff, of, dude, he's just getting, he's getting smashed by train, he's getting knocked up against sign, glass in his face, like, these movies were fantastic, dude. So I'm very interested in what Cosmo and others have to say about the first two Spider-Man movies, because it's 8, 9, and then like a 4.55, somewhere around there, maybe a little higher.
I'm thinking. Spider-Man 3 isn't worse than in Black Widows and Captain Marvel's Suicide Squad. It's not worse than
especially
those
not
types
Suicide
of
Squad.
It's just boring, and you got your obvious complaints about too many villains, but you can't even count Venom because he's in the last 25 minutes. And I know there's probably going to be quite a lot about how Mary Jane is damsel in distress type of thing. That's people's common complaints about these trilogies.
What are they supposed to do?
I don't know.
They could have just had the kids, I guess, instead of. But besides, no. Everyone that got Mary Jane figured out who Peter was. It wasn't just like a random, I got Mary Jane, ha ha ha.
So let's see. I'm very interested in
this.
Let's
get into it.
Yep. Does whatever a spider can, spins away.
Whenever I post a video at least partially related to Spider-Man, I always get vultures flying down yelling at me about how Homecoming isn't that good. Spider-Man 2 is better. Tom Holland can suck my dick. So the other day I was like, oh.
You're always going to get that no matter what. No matter what you do, as long as there is a comparison to be made, there will be a comparison made.
Absolutely.
Spider-Man 2022 or whatever that was compared to the 90s cartoon Spider-Man. There will always be those comparisons. Why are you letting it get to you? You're legit getting like 1 million views. Are you telling me you're going through each and every comment, picking out the ones that aggravate you?
Spider-Man 2 was better, by the way. Then Homecoming?
I need to rewatch Homecoming.
Please do. I rewatched it recently. Spider-Man 2 better.
Okay, fine. I haven't seen the Sam Raimi movies in a pretty long time. Maybe I need to refresh my opinions a little bit. So I went ahead, I rewatched the movies, and holy shit, these do not hold up. Now, I like to think I have a pretty good track record when it comes to my opinions, alright? I have a decent following of naive 11-year-olds, eccentric European weeaboos.
What does he think he means by he has a good track record based on his opinion? Does he mean that a majority of the people agree with them?
Yeah, I would say that if he calls something trash, consensusly people usually go, yes, that's trash. Whereas if he's called something good, consensusly the people go, yes, that is good. So that's the only thing I can think of for a track record. Like he watches, like if he watched Whoa and went, wow, that was a good movie. And then everybody came out, wow, that was a good movie.
It's just a very weird sentence.
And depressed alcoholic college students that seem to like and listen to my opinions. But I'm aware that I'm kind of pushing it this time. I'm just saying, I think the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies aren't as good as you remember. Now, I still love these movies, all 3 of them to be exact. Yeah, you heard that right. But it annoys me that people look at the first 2 as some sort of superhero holy grail, when they're not, like, really that good anymore. So let's look at all 3 of these movies and see why they really don't hold up and are kind of a little bit, just a little bit, of a mess. And yeah, I know everybody says Spider-Man 3 is the worst one, but if you ask me, all 3 of these movies are basically the same, and I'll elaborate more on that later. But for now, let's...
Impossible to think that.
Yeah, I don't know what the argument there is. Maybe structurally. Like, Act 1, this happens. Act 2, this happens.
Okay, structurally, but, like, quality-wise?
But he's just saying they're the same. Not on the same, like, level, but they're the same movie.
I wonder if that's going to be his argument of just, like, it's all the same movie and it's all a middling thing. But it's really not. You know, Peter has his problems with Mary Jane. They get apart. They come together. Villain, figure out who he is, fight. Villain is connected to him in some way, except for Sandman.
On that later. But for now, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with Spider-Man 1. So the first thing we're greeted with is a corny narration by Peter Parker, played by good old American sweetheart Tobey Maguire. And this is the one thing that I hate the most about the Spider-Man trilogy. I hate Tobey Maguire.
Pause. What makes it corny? Who am I? Are you sure you want to know?
Tobey Maguire is the best Peter Parker.
He's great. He has a great look. He has a great, like, whimpering voice. Big old puppy dog eyes. Dumb hair.
I've always said the mark of a Peter Parker is, would that kid get bullied in school? And he would be at the bottom of the rung of the social ladder. Absolutely. But you have to also be good looking enough to, oh yes, Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, they would like this dude. But my God, would he get punched?
Yeah, he would. But I'm just wondering, because he just drops corny and then just goes, that's a negative to this film, out the gate, moving on. And I just do not like that.
What did he say exactly?
Yeah, I was waiting for him to elaborate, but...
American sweetheart Tobey Maguire. And this is the one thing that I hate the most about this.
More for the corny part.
Okay.
So the first thing we're greeted with is a corny narration by Peter Parker, played by good old American sweetheart Tobey Maguire. And this is the one thing that I hate the most about the Spider-Man trilogy. I hate Tobey Maguire. Ever since I was a kid, I never really saw him as my definitive Peter Parker. He's kind of meek and wimpy, and that's supposed to be Peter's personality at first, but he never really gets over it. Even when he's Spider-Man, I still want to kick his ass because he's a huge dork.
It's you who's out, Gobby. Out of your mind.
And some...
That's a Spider-Man line. It just wasn't delivered well.
He's weak. He's meek. Yes, he is.
That's supposed to be Peter's personality, but he's supposed to grow out of it. When? When does he grow out of that?
He's... What does he want? Does he want just like, oh, I'm Spider-Man now, Mary Jane?
Oh, he did grow out of it in the third one.
He did.
Before he even became the symbiote, he was just like, hey, you know, it's starting up again. Let's watch it.
Yeah.
He even as Peter was getting more confident.
He was talking to Mary Jane like, yeah, Spider-Man goes through that all the time. Don't let the critics get to you, that type of stuff. But I'm wondering, what does he want to see when he says confidence? Because the whole thing is just like, you got the power to just like stop people, like when he drops his books and everything and people start hitting him in the head. It's like, what is he supposed to do? Just get up like, hey! I don't know what he wants.
Sometimes Tobey's performance is just really bad. There are some actors doing a really good job in these movies, so you really notice when somebody isn't doing that great of a job.
Who am I? You sure you want to know?
Blech. Also, at the mere 6-minute mark, we are shown the greatest character in the entire trilogy, Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn. I'll get more into him later, though.
money.
For now, let's look at how Harry introduces his...
So, he said that his biggest problem with the Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire. He spent like 3 sentences on him. Said that he's a bad actor. He's wimpy and meek and he does not grow out of it. Which is not a fault of Tobey Maguire. It's a fault of the writing if he believes it to be so. And that's it.
Dad.
Peter, may I introduce my father, Norman Osborn?
Why would you introduce your dad by his full name? That's kind of weird, but...
Cause he's in Norman Osborn.
His name holds prestige. He's like, oh, the great Norman Osborn. Why is this an issue? What?
My father, you know what?
He even does that later with MJ.
Full name. That's kind of weird, but whatever. Also, look at these high school...
Okay, if it's weird but whatever, why would you point it out?
Legitimately.
If it's whatever, why point it out?
Just another mark. That is legitimately what I would consider to be a nitpick.
Yes.
That affects the
Why
story
would you...
0%. He says it's whatever. It's not really an issue unless you perceive it to be an issue.
High school students. Now,
Yep.
I know a
Sure.
lot of movies
100%
have
too old,
people who
too old.
aren't really playing their
That's
age,
fine.
but this is
Move on.
kind of ridiculous.
Yep,
You
that's
see this
fine.
guy? That's supposed to be their teacher. He's younger than they are. I gotta say, though, I love how
Pause.
every line...
What do you mean they are all combined? Did you take... Oh, they're all 26 and this dude is 23. What do you mean? They can't all be the same age. And this dude cannot be younger than all of them.
And this man says is
Or maybe
whispered
he
and
is.
sounds very aggressive and threatening.
The next person who talks will fail this course. I kid you not. Do you know that this is the largest electron microscope on the eastern seaboard?
You were talking throughout that woman's entire presentation.
Peter gets bitten by some brown recluse and then he dies peacefully in his sleep. So in the next scene, we get the beginnings of Norman Osborn's supervillain origin story. And I gotta say, I do like the pacing in this movie for the most part. Things go along in a fairly well-balanced way. You see the beginning of Peter's...
Things go along in a well-balanced way? What does that even mean?
I was waiting because he goes, for the most part, I like the pacing. And I'm like, what don't you like about the pacing? What can
I'm
be
stuck
removed,
on
what
the
should be
well
added?
balance. Like, is it a balance between like story stuff and like slice of life stuff? Like,
Is it a balance between Norman, Peter, action, and drama? What's the balance? No, Cosmo, out the gate!
in a fairly well-balanced way. You see the beginning of Peter's origin, and then right after you see the beginning of the villain's origin. It just keeps going back and forth like this. However, his motivations aren't really that clear before he turns into a crazy monster person. He seems mad that they're taking the project back to formula.
Back to formula.
I'm a dumb internet movie boy, so I don't know what that means, but it seems like he needs to get his little science project done really quickly or the army men won't be very happy.
it's not seems. That's exactly what he says. Hey, get me human trials by this date, or I'm gonna give your funding to the other person, which means they lose a huge grant of what they have for their in company. And the guy is going, what we're doing right now is not ready. We need to go back to formula. Start from scratch.
Not ready for human testing. It was all there. Did you miss this?
Happy with him. Next, we see the first scene of what I'm going to call corny Sam Raimi shit.
Two cornies.
Horror movie stuff.
Horror movie stuff. Early superhero
Why
stuff.
are there skulls? It looks like I added those in post, but that's for real. This is fucking hilarious, and it only gets better from here.
Pause.
The next
He's having a fever dream. There's a lot going on in his mind. It represents the frantic nature of what's going on in his mind.
Sure, it's corny.
Yeah, it's corny. But again, not really worth bringing it up. It's early. This is early superhero movie stuff. It's unfortunately of the times, but I watched it just like, yeah, that happened.
scene is even funnier. Norman goes ahead and decides he's going to be the human test subject, and this fucking doormat just goes along with it.
No, he fights it on every step of the way, and Norman's just like, I don't want to hear that shit.
And it's just like, if this is going to happen, let's make it be as safe as possible so that I'm here monitoring it.
He
and if it
literally
works,
goes, hey, okay, Norman, you're going to do this? Let's do it with doctors. Let's make it as safe as possible. That.
And Norman's just like, nah, glug, glug.
Oh, I guess I'll just clean up the broken glass, asshole. Also, I think this little part is hilarious. Well, either way, the experiment goes horribly wrong, and he dies. What?
Back to formula.
This is a comedy movie. I don't care what anybody tells me. Now, you guys know the rest. I won't nitpick the rest of this first act because that would be way too easy. Like, I could mention how Peter's just gonna walk to school, but then the bus just appears and he's like, oh no, wait, I'm supposed to run out.
He wasn't walking to school. He was following Mary Jane.
Yes. And the bus, who knows where his bus stop is?
On top of that, that might have been close to his bus stop, and the bus kept going because you saw the bus driver laughing when he saw Peter running after the bus.
And Mary Jane was standing there, like next to a sign. I don't know exactly what the sign says. And then her friends picked her up. That could have been the bus stop. We don't know where the bus stop is. This is another nitpick that is also just like, wait.
He said he could have nitpicked like this stuff.
So
then you are nitpicking if you're going, I could have done the thing that I'm doing right now.
The Spider-Man Trilogy is worse than you remember. I could nitpick a bunch of stuff in the first half, but I'm not going to do it. But I'm actually going to do it.
Peter's just gonna walk to school, but then the bus just appears and he's like, oh no, wait, I'm supposed to run after the bus. Like, what the fuck? You weren't even going to the bus stop. It's your own fault if you miss it now.
How do you know that's not the bus stop? How do you know it's not near the bus stop? Mary Jane was on the bus with him the other day. The first time in the movie. So she catches the bus usually. And they live next to each other. So how do you know they're not walking to the bus
This is
stop?
proper critique. This is what people are paying for. This is what people want. He not on the bus.
He ain't at the bus stop, yo. What's up?
Fault if you miss it now. And I'm most definitely not gonna mention this unfortunately aged joke.
But you are mentioning it. Don't say you're
unfortunate.
not gonna mention it and then show it in its entirety. And yes, it is.
Yeah.
a-
Even when I heard it, I was like, ooh.
Cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?
What if you did make it for him? Would that be so bad?
Oh, now you're
Spider-Man.
explaining it. I
I'm
thought
not
you
gonna do
weren't
it.
going to.
Oh, dude. You still happy to be here?
Yes, very much so.
Wow, Spider-Man, you're pretty homophobic. The one thing that does bug me is the pivotal scene where Uncle Ben gives his iconic speech. Because he's actually chastising Peter Parker for fighting Flash Thompson in a previous scene. Except Peter was fighting in self-defense. And Uncle Ben's like, oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. Just because you can beat him up doesn't mean you should. So what does Peter...
So, once he relays the information, once he gets the information that Peter dodged every single strike that Flash Thompson did easily, and then grabbed his arm and twisted it almost around and then punched him, let's say a good 10, 15 feet away, he sees that Peter is capable of harming this individual. This was not a challenge for him. So he goes, you didn't need to fight that dude. You were clearly better than him. You have the power to beat him, but just because you have the power to beat him doesn't mean that you should.
On top of that, it could be that he's telling them for future reference, because if Peter's like, wow, I could beat these dudes up, he just starts going around beating dudes up.
For any small transgression.
do with this advice? He spends the rest of his life beating people up. The context just don't make no sense.
No, just because you can beat someone up doesn't mean you should. But these people deserve it because they're doing crimes.
He doesn't people.
He doesn't want Peter going around just fighting people for no reason. He has a reason they're doing crime.
Power. He's using his power responsibly, which is the line. Great power, great responsibility. He sees that these people are getting hurt with crimes and stuff. He has the ability to stop it.
Why? He saw what happened when he didn't stop it. He had great power. He did not use it responsibly. He used it for money and then let the dude go because he wanted revenge, and it got his uncle killed. In the original.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, it's fine. But this is not. Well, how did he take that from that? It's such a simple thing. He just goes. He just somehow transcribed it in his mind. Uncle Ben going, "Don't beat people up," and then Peter just starts beating people up, and he goes, "Well, your uncle said not to. Why are you, dude?" It's so funny. Baby mentality.
It's so funny that people are always complaining about complimenting nuance and stuff. But if it's not, he's just going the most literal. He said these words.
Don't make no sense. However, on an unrelated note, I think it's time to bring up something that I love about these movies. And that's the extras. I'm serious, look in the background of any shot and just find a random person. You'll get a whole new level of entertainment out of these movies. In this movie, you'll see background characters that don't give a shit, people who have no idea where they are. Even main characters have a chance of devolving into idle sims when they're not the focus of the scene.
What?
It is really bizarre.
Wait, Paul.
Yeah.
He sees
that Norman is complimenting Peter and not him, and he just, that's so great, Peter, and he just, I don't want to hear this shit. Walks away.
And then what does that lead to? Him walking over and seeing Mary Jane breaking up with Flash, and then he gets with Mary Jane.
So for those
okay. It's been so long since we've done a Cosmo, I forgot just how terrible he is.
So for those of you who aren't aware by now, this movie has a certain flow to it. We see Peter do stuff, and then we see Norman do stuff. And then Peter and Norman meet up again, and the whole thing goes on like that until the movie's over. And this works mostly because, like I said, Norman Osborn is fucking hilarious. Maybe it's just me, but every scene with him makes me laugh.
That's not the only reason that it works. We're seeing both the hero and the villain's perspective. We're seeing them slowly figure out each other, who they are. We're feeling the tension of like the blood drop scene and the Thanksgiving scene. It's not just because Norman is great. It's a great juxtaposition of the hero, the villain, what they're both going through. We're seeing quite a lot, as opposed to if you go over to the Spider-Man 3, we get one scene of a mother and daughter with Sandman, and then that's basically it. Other than that, he's just crime man. And then he's just like, I did it for a good reason. I forgive you, and he blows away. To do future crimes, or is he good now?
He could be doing something completely normal, and it's still hilarious to me. It's like Willem Dafoe is an alien pretending to be a human.
Peter, the Science Award. That's terrific.
Yeah.
I am now going to share some of my favorite moments from Norman Osborn in this movie. I like the reaction he has when Harry offers Peter to work for him. He looks so happy. Look at his face. I don't even need to describe this part. It kind of speaks for itself.
So 5 minutes into his critique of Spider-Man 1, what has he said that would be described as a negative towards this film? Something that would make me perceive it as worse than I remember. He said that a couple things that he could nitpick, like a bad line and the bus being chased, a corny opening, corny flashes with the skulls and the spider and stuff. What else has he said?
I mean, he's like halfway through the movie right now, and he's had almost nothing to say.
Actively saying this is the best character in all of the Spider-Man trilogy.
But I think he's saying that it's the best character because he's so bad.
But he's amazing.
Yes, but he's
finish it.
But he's just like, he makes me laugh every time. Look at him.
But he was so finishing was
finish it.
It was so menacing. When the look on his face when he just goes, "How did you say you got that scratch?" As he's just piecing it together, and Peter is like, oh.
I love how his whole plan to recruit.
Slaps him in the hand like, "Listen, hero." He's amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
I love how his whole plan to recruit Spider-Man is to drug him, kidnap him, tie him up, and have a dad talk with him on a rooftop about how New Yorkers are dicks and they're not worth saving.
Right.
I like how he dresses up as a...
Yes. He is a new hero. Clearly sounds pretty young. So he's trying to convince them that just like these people aren't worth saving. We can do a lot together, good or bad. It's up to you, but we can do this together. Instead of the big, just like, oh, we're always on opposing sides and we're just, every time we see each other, we're going to fight like a lot of other movies. Black Widow. I keep bringing that up. But, you know, they have a small heart-to-heart chat just like, hey, here are my ideals. Here's why you should believe in them.
Think about it.
Think about it. There is no violence. There's no threats. You're sitting here all drugged up.
Well, there was a threat.
Well, there's a threat. I'm talking about not like a knife to the throat.
Squash you like a bug right now.
And he could have. But he just floats away and just goes, think about it. Think about everything that I said.
What about my generous proposal?
Oh, man, I love that line.
Generous.
You piece of shit.
old lady, complete with a stock sound effect, just so he can get the jump on Spider-Man. And then the scene ends with this great line.
No one says no to me!
Sometimes he just shows up for no reason, like this jump scare.
Yep.
However, a character in these movies that I do not like is Aunt May.
Whoa.
She's amazing.
Whoa, unbelievable. She was great.
She was
all three
it.
movies. Go ahead, take it. The ring, just like, go ahead.
That was a good scene in the third movie. I like the little ring scene. He uses a line directly from Aunt May to Doc Ock at the end of the movie to try to convince him. She's a fountain of wisdom. She tells Peter what he needs to hear. Like, what's the problem? She's a good actress.
She's a great little old lady.
She gets down and dirty with Doc Ock. Just like, shame when you hit him in the head.
It's not much, but you take it.
Nope.
And don't you dare leave it here.
Skip that scene.
Really?
Skip, big skip. I ain't watching that shit. Why would I watch that? I know what happens.
Dude, you know what happens in all of them.
Sure. I don't need to watch that scene.
It was a great scene.
And then she starts off not liking Spider-Man. Spider-Man saves her, and then she softens up towards Spider-Man. Like, she's sassy with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's like, we sure show him. And she's like, what do you mean we? He goes, oh.
Hey, Aunt May has the worst pep talks in this movie.
I can't help thinking about the last thing I said to him. He tried to tell me something important, and I threw it in his face.
You loved him.
Wow, she's so wise. Aunt May is supposed to...
What else?
Oh my goodness. Scene, and yeah, like that was the end of the conversation.
Look, she's trying to help absolve him because he goes, I was so mean to him right before, and she goes, you loved him. That's what you should focus on. What are you looking for? The script? Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. This man is a monster.
You loved him and he loved you. He never doubted the man you'd grow into. How you were meant for great things. You won't disappoint him. With great power comes great responsibility. Remember that, Peter. Remember. Hurry up. What the That's not it.
That was weird.
Okay. Yeah. No. You won't disappoint him. That's where it ended. Not the great power comes great responsibility. She says all that. You loved him and he loved you. He tried to tell me something important. I threw it in his face. You loved him and he loved you. He never doubted the man you would grow into. How you were meant for great things. You won't disappoint him. I can't stop thinking about the last thing that I said to him. You won't disappoint him. How is that not a great pep talk?
To be Peter's moral compass.
That is legitimately disingenuous editing.
Yes.
That was
you loved
really
him.
crappy.
End of discussion.
Wow, great pep talk. And he cuts away. That is insanely bad. Insane.
Is supposed to be Peter's moral compass, and in these movies, she's kind of rude. But I'll get into that in the next movie.
She's a sassy old lady.
Sassy ladies. The Return.
He is just the biggest asshole.
Ow.
Wait, what? Wait, hold on, what?
Rude. But I'll get into that in the next movie, where she is just the biggest asshole.
She's stopping a dude from stealing, and that's asshole.
Money comes flying out of a bag. He tries to grab it. She stops him from stealing money. This bank teller, let's say, he's making at least good money. He does not need a single dollar. It is just him being a piece of crap to steal a single dollar coin. And she stops him. Ow. And of course he does not explain that.
He will later. When he gets to the second.
Do you think he will?
Yes. Inadequately.
He's 8 minutes into this.
Yep.
This is a 26-minute video. This is movie 1.
Yep.
I can't imagine there's a big ending. 888. That's 24.
Nah. 8, 6, 10.
You think?
6 for 2, 10 for 3.
Let's see.
Ow. So anywho, the second half of this movie hits, and you realize that we are now watching...
He's only on the second half!
And you realize that we are now watching a completely different movie. And I couldn't be happier, honestly. This movie is so wild, and I think that's why everybody loves these movies. In the second half of the movie, we're also introduced to the actual best character, J. Jonah Jameson. Even when I read the comics, I hear his voice in my head. Not only is his performance good, but it's like his scenes have a completely different writing staff. His lines are legitimately funny in this.
Mr. Jameson, Spider-Man.
Hoffman?
Yeah?
That wasn't a funny line. That was comedic timing based on the writing of the script itself.
Do you think he cares?
Yeah.
To the point where I'm pretty sure...
Dude, he better mention... I drove Spider-Man away. He was the only one who could have stopped Doc Ock. Yes.
He's not.
Dude, it was such... I replayed that line like 6 times. His face just falls. He's so sad, and then his face just falls like, this motherfucker. Yes.
He's making some of this stuff up.
Spider-Man wasn't attacking the city. He was trying to save it. That's slander.
It is not. I resent that. Slander is spoken. In print, it's libel.
Also, do you guys remember that Elizabeth Banks is in these movies? Yeah. No.
Betty Brant.
Nobody remembers that. So once the festival scene happens, we get a really good idea of how much this movie has completely lost it. Where before the special effects were mostly hidden or just briefly shown, this movie is now a CGI nightmare. And if you think I'm being mean to a movie that came out in 2002, let's see what a real critic has to say.
You know, my thumb is down on this movie, but it's sort of a split decision. When you see Spider-Man flying through the skies and leaping between buildings, he looks like an artificial cartoon character. He moves too fast, without the weight and presence of flesh and blood.
See, they even thought it looked like...
Okay, no. He's talking about the weight of the character as opposed to the visual itself. We're talking about the visuals. Because, my God, it stands out starkly to the bright... Because when Peter's running on the roof, I was like, whoa, that is not Peter Parker. That is not Tobey Maguire.
It goes into cartoon land now and again. But this is literally an argument from authority. This guy is a legitimately legit film critic. Listen to what he has to say. And so, he said it. So, what I said is also correct.
And you said critics, and it was critic. But Also, just look at the first Avengers movie. You'll see some wonky CG.
Yes. This is
And
of
that
the
was
time.
like 10 years ago. This is 20 years ago. Of course you're going to get some wonkiness now.
It's of the times. And that does not mean that it's worse than I remember. I remember it being bad.
Shit back then, so leave me alone. This part here always kind of bothered me too. See, Goblin has these fucking bombs that turn people into skeletons. Yeah, for real. Anyway, he throws it at this balcony, and Harry and MJ are also on this balcony, like they're right next to each other. But the bomb only kills
he's
these
quite
people.
far
Not only
away.
kills
No, they're close to each other, but they're not close to the people that got exploded.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
kills these people.
Go back a little bit, because they showed a wide shot of a little bit more.
Bombs that turn.
Okay, yeah, you can see Harry moving away right there in that
Fucking
scene.
bombs
You
that-
can see him moving right there
Fucking bombs
at the
that turn
bottom
people
right,
into
away
skeletons.
from
Yeah,
where
for
Norman
real.
throws
Anyway,
it
he
to the
throws it at this
left.
balcony, and Harry and MJ are also on this balcony, like they're right next to each other. But the bomb only kills these people. Not only kills them, it fucking vaporizes them. But why didn't MJ get hit? She saw it happen. She literally walked.
Look at how far away she is!
Watched this happen right in front of her. But she's fine. I mean, maybe you gotta be like really, really close to it. I don't know. Now I'm gonna show you guys.
So
a
you
brief
don't know, but you're just complaining about it. We don't know the range. We don't know how it works. We know nothing about it. We know that these 5 people were vaporized. Mary Jane was a good bit away. Same thing with Harry, and they did not. What's the issue here?
And it showcases exactly why I love this movie and why I think this movie is a huge joke. Everything that this movie symbolizes in my mind is in this clip.
Hello,
my dear.
It's Spider-Man!
This clip has everything. Goofy-ass Willem Dafoe acting, screaming women, which Sam Raimi loves, by the way, but I'll get into that later, and hilarious extras.
It's Spider-Man!
I did not
Is
edit that clip to be...
Spider-Man? Why is that a hilarious act? What about that is hilarious? She's noticing that a hero can save the day against this supervillain instead of running in fear.
I guess look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's just funny extras. It's one of the most memorable things ever, and you would be remiss to tell me who said those words.
Happy to be here.
Spider-Man!
I did not edit that clip to be any faster.
10 minutes.
Yeah, this ratio is gonna be awful.
What is he doing?
I don't know what's left. He's not going fast enough. He's halfway through this movie.
And he's talking about stuff that he likes in this movie. And surely there's some stuff that he likes in the second movie. So what is...
That's just the pace of these movies. This festival scene is just really a masterpiece. I can cut out 5 seconds at any point of this whole scene, and you have unintentional comedy gold.
Hold it right there! I surrender!
So the scene ends with a nice 1-2 punch. First, we get one of the funniest lines in the movie.
Help me to get Spider-Man!
And then Peter Parker kidnaps Mary Jane, and the crowd cheers him on for doing this. You don't think she needs to, like, go to the hospital? Because she was
Kidnaps Mary Jane. Is he taking her to the hospital?
Oh, whoops.
trapped
And
under
the crowd cheers. As they're flying, we're not privy to all the conversation. He could ask her if she's hurt. When he drops her off, there is no wincing or anything. So we have to assume that she is fine. She was buried underneath some rubble. It's not like there was any... So she is in no pain. She's in distress, but it doesn't appear that she's in pain.
Rubble. And people have also pointed this out before, but that's obviously a mannequin in a Spider-Man costume.
Okay.
And her hair is blowing in the wrong way. Anyway, let's look at more goofy scenes out of context.
Goofy scenes out of context. Worse than you remember.
So with the context, they would be much less goofy?
But even if it is in context, it's just a goofy scene. This is terrible. He's not saying anything other than, yo, this is ugly. Look at the CGI. This is unintentionally hilarious. For what reason? It just is. Bad extras. With this.
Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. The jungle drama, bitch.
This movie is so fucking funny. It's pretty clear that this movie is the goofiest.
Here are some more out of context scenes. Single scene, moving on. He can't even.
This movie's so goofy. It's his argument that it's so goofy. Why would you take it seriously?
Is it?
Because he's just like, it's so goofy. Look at all the goof.
It's pretty clear that this movie is the goofiest thing to be put on film in the year 2002. I mean, the climax has the villain literally holding the love interest in one hand and a metal box of children in the other, and Spider-Man has to pick which one he's gonna save.
Pause. Yes, he does. That is a tragic. It's tragedy on. Yes.
Okay,
Peter.
think of it like this. What happens if he chooses one of the others die?
Is
it still goofy?
If the children die, even though Peter does not know those children, there are still a bunch of innocent people, and it is even more of a tragedy for Peter himself that the love of his life dies. Norman is forcing this choice to see how good he really is. Is he more selfish or is he more selfish? Either way, he's losing something.
And then he's just gonna die.
More distress, and then he maybe gets pushed over to Norman's edge. Doesn't really matter. He's trying to get him to. It's a choice, like, and again, just no reason why it's bad. It's just corny.
It's just goofy.
It's just goofy. Even though he's threatening the lives of at least, let's say, upwards of 20 people in a single instance.
Which one he's gonna save. If something this stereotypical happened in a superhero movie today, there would be public outcry about how silly it is.
No, it wouldn't. It'd be outcry if it was done poorly. But things are super formulaic and there's no public outcry about it. I don't know what you mean.
Goofy is not...
Save the person you love or save these people. Whoops, The Dark Knight. Save the love of your life or save the other person. Heralded.
Nah, but it's children, so that's bad.
But to top it off, you get the funniest line in the whole movie.
You keep
and
saying
I mean it. Out of everything I've shown you.
You keep saying that this is the best character.
Because he's so funny because of the goof.
You can't keep making everything a 10.
He's almost halfway through.
Legitimately with the first movie.
And I mean it. Out of everything I've shown you guys, this line is my favorite. I have memorized this speech. It is truly iconic to me as one of the greatest and cheesiest superhero movie monologues.
Spider-Man! Yep. This is why only fools are heroes. Because you never know when some lunatic will come along with a sadistic choice. Let die the woman you love,
or suffer.
Suffer the little children.
Truly a masterpiece. As a regular superhero movie, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. But as a
Jesus Christ! He just says it's goofy. He just says the special effects are outdated.
Happy to be here.
How? What's the zenith of him being popped? What's his first video that popped off?
I think you mean... Oh, yeah, that's a good question. What was the turning point where he went from just another analysis to one of the most well-known analysts? It might have been Amazing Spider-Man 2 or the Amazing Spider-Man series.
Because he didn't say anything of substance.
Dude, it's goofy.
It's goofy.
The extras.
This is worse than you remember. It's goofy. It has bad CGI.
The extras. The kids are older than they should be if they're in high school.
not even really talking about the story, the character.
Oh, Aunt May's pep talks, which was just
And he showed
fabricated.
one single line, 3 words. How?
Don't look
How
at
do
me.
you
I ain't
put
do
this
this.
up with this title and give this level of critique? Does not talk about the story. Says Tobey Maguire is his least favorite thing. It just talks about how meek he is for 2 sentences and moves on. Your least favorite thing? You got 2 sentences to say? Oh my goodness. Happy to be here. Very happy. Great. Having a lot of fun.
Wow, a lot of people are. A lot of the top comments are just like, no.
Really?
No.
What's the like to dislike?
The like to dislike is 188K up, 91K down.
Okay.
The trilogy is amazing and nobody's telling me otherwise. I don't want your opinion. I want pictures of Spider-Man. That's funny. The trilogy is honestly incredibly entertaining. Like, there's so much dumb but it's such a great time watching with friends. No. Okay. Sam Raimi did one thing, and that's correct, and that's cast Jonah Jameson. Third movie is legendary. So the butler didn't tell Harry. Know that one. Sort by the comments by new. You'll get all new entertainment. I say Tobey Maguire. The guy literally talks crap about Mark Willem and nobody. Okay. Nope. These people are idiots. Okay.
And he didn't even talk about my favorite Norman line.
Which was?
When he's talking to Harry, he goes, I will rectify certain inequities. I'm like, Norman!
10s across the board, baby. Comedic gold.
Don't tell Harry.
Wow. That's a callback to Mary Jane telling him, don't tell Harry.
And not only that, in his last moments, he doesn't want his son to think any less of him. As he's this dude that is killing a bunch of people and terrorizing people, he's going, keep my legacy strong, Peter, at least. Not taking his last moment to threaten him or anything. His last thoughts are with his son. His son that Harry, for this entire movie, thinks that he does not love him. How is...
You know
and
what?
again, he just adds a laugh track and moves on.
Did he do a good job with The Amazing Spider-Man?
Did he? Those are ripe for entertainment and fodder and critiquing. Did he? I don't think he did.
Or is it more of this, but because those are universally panned,
people just go, yeah. Wait a second.
You don't need to look it up.
Yes, I do.
You don't need to look it up. We don't need to hear none of that.
Shooting hand thing half the time. This thing, he doesn't do that half the time. That's the only thing I expect.
So the Spider-Man flip peace symbol thing, he doesn't do. This is one of his art.
The devil horns thing to get the...
This is one of his arguments. This dude is worthless. What is this?
Not worthless.
Wait, why is it? Just played.
Bad as everybody says. Maybe I won't mind that much. But yeah, no, this movie is fucking terrible. Everything is wrong with it.
Everything,
Spider-Man
okay.
is because Peter Parker put his name on the camera that he brought to the
Absolutely.
Lizard's secret lair.
Very easy.
Fourth, will they, won't they? The whole movie, and then she fucking dies. So whatever. You have Harry look.
He might not have done a good job
He
on that.
didn't do a good job on this.
Hey, we're taking it out of context. Who knows?
He's actually pretty chill about it. He's not that upset. He gets over it. However, right after that, Peter saves this guy from a falling billboard, and everybody cheers for him. And then all the screens in Times Square show Spider-Man instead of Electro. Now, first of all, Why is everybody gathered around to watch this happen? That's kind of a theme
Absolutely.
of this movie. Every fight scene that happens has fucking people just standing around. Police usually make people go away when there's an emergency. But in this movie, whenever there's a fucking fight,
Absolutely.
the show lecturer decides that Spider-Man is his true enemy, and he attacks him and the people on the Times Square steps. Now,
We know why he did that. He wanted people to look at him now.
We're not arguing against that movie.
I'm just saying.
I might need to rewatch that.
Seriously. Well, I don't want to because I do not like Cosmo. I hate his voice in particular.
Not his voice, his cadence.
legitimately, his cadence. Well, the voice as well that he does. His voice. Right?
But I think that's more cadence stuff.
Whatever it is, I hate it. But Flip, I don't like that he didn't do this. But yeah, that was another thing that I had a problem with Spider-Man 2. When he's making his little son, Doc Ock is making the little son. People just standing there, not behind glass, no in goggles or anything. I didn't like that.